verse 3.
Yeah, I thought it was in chapter 22,
Oh.
which is also a loose woman.
Oh, well, we have multiple women.
Okay, so, yeah, so in chapter 5, there is, for the lips of a loose woman drip honey, her speech is smoother than oil, but in the end she is bitter as wormwood.
She
Sharp.
looks good.
She looks good.
She's pretty. I'm attracted to her, but...
Fun for a time, but in the end, ruin. Her feet go down to death. Her steps follow the path to Sheol, which is
an
yeah.
old Hebrew word for it's hell, like say Hasatan,
yeah.
has a
long
development.
history.
And
yeah.
the Hebrews at this point in history thought everybody, when they die, they all go to the same place, and there's not really a sense of afterlife. It's like Hades in the Greek underworld, where everybody goes down there. That's Sheol. That's the pit.
Yeah.
So the loose woman leads down to the pit, to death.
Yeah, and then it also says she does not keep straight to the path of life. Her ways wander, and she does not know it.
Yes.
And I think, like, that verse, I think, is so interesting because throughout Proverbs, it's like, keep on the straight and narrow. Like, that's where we get this idea. And that her ways are wandering, and she doesn't even know that they're wandering. And how many times have we gotten ourselves into a situation that's really bad, and like, how did we even get here? And that when we're wandering away or doing something that's going to end up hurting us, we don't even understand how we got there in the first place. But what's important to notice here is that although it is cast in the form of woman or female, it is not any like
a
literal woman. It's not like my ex-girlfriend who done me wrong, like a bad country song, or that Jezebel.
Yeah.
You know, it's this personification, and I wonder, especially since this is a male-dominated book from father to son.
Yeah, men wrote it, mainly two men.
Yes, and I think it's easy to see that men can be led astray by women, but also the woman as the other, like the unfamiliar,
yes,
the not me.
Yeah, but the not me.
The not you.
Yeah.
That because what's more mysterious to a man than a woman?
Yeah.
You know. So that's.
Well, and I would say this is one of those places where one of the great things about being Presbyterian is we don't have to pretend that every single word is a magic word that is God.
Right.
No, the Bible for us points to God, but it itself is not God. It is affected by the culture, by the language, and in case you do not believe this, I encourage you to pick up a Hebrew Bible in Hebrew.
Yeah.
And if you think it isn't culturally conditioned, then you tell me what it reads, because it's going to be hard for you.
Yes.
No, it is God inspired. It's God breathed. The Spirit moves through this text. I believe that.
Yeah.
But the culture in which it was written affects it.
Yes, and the culture in which it is read
exactly
affects it. So there's double culture going on all the time. There's all these different lenses that we read.
And you could today you could easily write this from a woman's perspective and talk about a man who talks nice and then is abusive and no one else knows about it. Yeah, and no one else knows about it. And
it's the same thing.
My father was very. He could be charming, you know, to outsiders. It was always very frustrating for me as a boy because he was often very angry and I'll leave it at that. Not easy to be with at all, and then could be the epitome of niceness, and people would say, "Oh, what a nice person!" It was so frustrating. You could easily write this and put substitute a man
completely
for the woman. It's not a
And then the other thing, which is one of our stories, but I want to talk about it, is the last chapter in Proverbs is about the ideal wife, which I think for us culturally is not so great anymore. Like, this is one of those times where this is definitely a product of its culture, and a lot of people still do read it literally today. And it's interesting because at this one, the wife is very involved in the economics of the family, and she's very much a provider. But on the other hand, she's also this kind of subservient, quiet, voiceless woman.
And that's a model of wife that should be challenged.
Yeah.
And maybe it made sense in that context, but does not necessarily make sense in ours.
No, and like I grew up going to a very conservative youth group where a lot of people got married at 18, and this was their model, and like that. I remember being in high school and being told that this is what I was supposed to be like.
Wow. Okay.
I know, and I promptly left. I am not.
And then you became Presbyterian.
Took me a couple years, but but like that. This still goes on, and my church wasn't even that conservative.
I wonder, they could have picked Song of Solomon for a model.
I know.
But they got Proverbs instead.
Right.
But we're not there yet.
We're not there yet. So
a place to read critically.
It's a place to read critically, to read with cultural eyes, and I think a place to really engage in the text.
Yeah.
So that would be Proverbs and some gender issues.
You bet.
It's a mixed bag.
It is.
Yeah.
We'll end with some of these, just sort of famous wisdom, sayings, and there's so many more. But 22 is great because one of the staples of wisdom is that hard work pays off. And really, if we're going to read Job, where Job lifts up the obvious examples where nasty, mean people prosper, that only makes sense in a context where we all know that hard work pays off. But it's even more than hard work, but there's honor about this too. A good name, this is in chapter 22, a good name is to be chosen rather than great riches. Favor is better than silver or gold. And that goes right back to Solomon, where God says, you can have anything you want. Do you want riches? Do you want wisdom? Do you want... I'll take wisdom. I'd rather have that, than anything else. Train children in the right way. When they are old, they will not stray. If you put more energy and time into caring for your kids, your young people, that will pay off down the road. That's the basis behind Head Start.
Yeah.
Behind preschool. Yes. So we could go on and on. I think. But losing steam here. But what you hear is a care for life and a care for something that's more important than just immediate gain.
Right.
Care for something that's longer lasting than that.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that, as we were kind of saying at the start, that this is probably the least energetic of the books, but I think it's probably the wisest of the books in a lot of ways, because so many of the other wisdom books are way emotional. Like they're kind of up and down, and
very down,
and a little bit bipolar.
Yeah.
I'm probably using that word too lightly, but they need a Xanax or something. Whereas Proverbs is steady.
Yeah. Yes.
And is about wisdom that carries you through the years. Whereas I think some of the other books are wisdom that get you through certain periods of time.
Very well put, I think. Yeah, this is descriptive of someone who's steady and who is successful over a long period of time, not someone who's just promising you quick gains. It's a book I wish Wall Street, had read more of.
Yeah.
For years, maybe, where it's not just about the quick return, but it's about this long,
I think now they're feeling a little
ecclesiastical. Like the loose woman, maybe.
Maybe vanity o' vanities.
So
which we'll get to.
This is Proverbs. It's a great book for just little small snippets. So if it's one of those books where if you just have a few minutes, read through, and you'll find something that's kind of pithy, and you go, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So we'll see you next with Song of Wolf of Ecclesiastes.
Ecclesiastes.